this happens to a lot of good guys. They end up meeting like an amazing girl. They text nonstop. It's hot and heavy in the beginning. They have deep conversations, maybe some wild sex, great energy. But then all of a sudden she gets distant. He's confused because he's like, I gave it my best. Why is she all of a sudden growing colder? And it's like, what's going on? But that's always what's going to happen when the connection isn't built to last. And so in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to set the right foundation in place to where that girl that really, really lights you up never leaves.
Okay, so why do some men get women easily but struggle to keep them long term?
Why do some men get women easily and struggle to keep them long term? Usually, okay, so when you say get women easily, by that I'm assuming sex is the measurement stick, because we have levels of sex as we already talk about. So on one level of analysis, some guys may classify getting a girl's number as getting a girl. Some men would classify how often you go on dates, and some will classify how often do you get to have sex with a girl.
Right.
So by getting girl, I think most people would, it may be debatable whether or not you classify getting numbers or going on dates, but I think all guys will agree that at the bare minimum, they'll classify having sex as quote unquote the first step of getting a girl, right? Because that's the point of the number in the date. So if we're going to talk about guys who have an easier time getting sexual access to a woman, but when they meet a woman that they really want to keep around or want to stay or actually want to date, maybe build something with, yet for some reason within 6 months, a year, 2 years, and most typically with this archetype, things just fall apart. Yeah. The respect that she used to reverence him with is no longer there. The texting goes dry. She seems distant. All the things we talked about in the beginning. And that's usually because there's certain principles that he violates that he's not aware of. Right. So one thing that's a misnomer that's often stated is that you need to learn how to attract a woman, right? So one of the things I teach as rule number 1 is that attraction is natural. Right. Males and females are naturally attracted to each other. So we don't control attraction. What we do control is repulsion. So most guys aren't having an attraction problem. They're having a repulsion problem. So it's more accurate to say when guys come to work with me that they're doing things to repel their women that they're unconscious of. And once the repulsion behaviors are corrected, then the attraction is reignited, because the attraction was always there. Right. But the new things added to the situation is what causes the woman to feel pushed or to push the woman away. So the question is, why would a woman be pushed away? And the analogy I've given before, another typical analogy I'll give clients is the feminine, or think of it like there's this magnet, right? And the magnet has a magnetic field around it that represents each individual woman. The feminine, or the woman, is the receiver. However, she has a magnetic field around her that repels anything she doesn't want to receive. So any guy that tries to go, hey, can you allow me into your magnetic field? And let's say the magnetic field represents her presence, maybe her body, her mind, her heart, right? And that magnetic field is around every woman. And so guys will represent nails, right? Nails are constantly trying to get within her magnetic field, and it's repelling, repelling, repelling. No, 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 no. However, every once in a while, she'll see a nail that she wants to enter a magnetic field, right? Sometimes that nail won't even attempt to, which is what an approach would be. And so she may try to do things to pull him into her field.
Right.
Right. Which is what she may wear that tight little dress to her job that she knows is a little too promiscuous for the job, but it's just enough to be able to get away with for that one guy that she's trying to attract. Or if it's a social circle thing, she may dollop at an occasion where she wouldn't usually dollop because she wants to be noticed by it. But usually something to pull the nail towards her, pull the guy towards her to inspire him to initiate.
Right.
So that being said, when that nail or that guy, if he takes the bait and starts initiating, his journey through her magnetic field will be smoother, right? He won't experience that repulsion. She'll actually pull him in.
Yeah.
Now, there are layers to the field. At the deepest layer would be when she allows him full access to her mind, heart, and her body. However, usually guys think the highest level of access to a woman is her body, right? So they prioritize, okay, if I can get sex or get laid, that's the highest achievement, when it's actually one of the lower ones. So, but going back to the magnetic field example, if the woman pulls him in, oftentimes in the beginning, if the chemistry is right, the guy, which would represent the nail, would want to enter the field, and the woman, which represents the magnet, wants him to enter the field, and you get chemistry.
Yeah.
Right? You get union. However, this is usually where the problems arise. However, if that guy really, 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 really values and enjoys being within that woman's magnetic field, because something that guys don't understand, this one particular client I'm thinking about, I used to have to remind him of this all the time. I said, and it will tie into the answer to the question, the woman gains pleasure from drawing the nail into her field.
Yeah.
Right? The seduction principle, the I caught the nail, is valuable to the woman.
Yeah, for sure.
However, men tend to try to force their way into the field before the woman, at a pace potentially higher than the woman is willing to let them in. So rather than relaxing and allowing the process to unfold, so to speak, they may want to get to the center of the magnet faster than the woman wants to let them in.
Right.
And so in that forcefulness, it communicates because then the woman, she's not thinking of this consciously. But when a man is overly eager for a thing, so much so that he's willing to force himself beyond the rate and speed that the woman is comfortable with, when he's looking to go faster than she's willing to receive him, what questions arise? Well, one of them is, why does he need this to happen so quickly? Right? And I'm not talking about if a woman is like, oh, well, let's wait 300 days or something. There have been plenty of times where I've met women and within an hour, like, we've been intimate. But it wasn't because I was trying to force my way in, right? Otherwise, how would I know what I'm talking about?
Right.
Beyond just obviously instructing others, but experientially, I've also made mistakes. So, but when they happen quickly, it's actually more likely a byproduct of we were both open to the speed. Like, I wanted to enter her field and she wanted me to enter it quickly.
Right.
Or she actually wanted it. She tried to speed up the speed at which things went. And then I was like, okay, I'm cool with it being. So the speed at which things occur is heavily dependent upon how quickly the woman wants to receive that nail. Mm-hmm. So let's say that happens and it's a great experience, their union. Sometimes, again, because what does a magnet do? A magnet, its only job is to pull things toward it. So if the nail representing the man gets to a place where it's like, I don't ever want to let go of this magnet, mm-hmm. his primary focus becomes never losing touch with the magnet. Mm-hmm. And so all his focus on effort actually switches from what inspired it initially, which was potentially desire, to fear. So it goes from, I desire this woman and I enjoy her, to I desire so much now I'm going to do everything to prevent her from ever getting away. Mm. And so the prioritization and the intention of the relationship shifts from desire and fun, or whatever the motivation was, to fear of loss. Mm. And so every move he makes is from a place of fear of loss. So he loses his identity, because now the most important thing to him is not to get forced back out the magnetic field. Mm-hmm. So that violates two principles. One, it disallows the woman from continuing to attract him back, because, let me put it like this, the nature of the nail is to be an independent entity, not to be binded to the magnet all the time. The nail existed as an independent entity before the magnet and the nail met. Mm-hmm. The magnet existed as an independent entity. So the nail does never lose its nature of being an independent entity. Mm-hmm. And so where does the magnet know its nature or value? In the continual pulling back of the nail. Mm-hmm. Right? There is a joy in the fact that it's like he keeps coming back, right? The one I want always comes back. Women enjoy that thought process, right? That's true. And so because the magnetic fields are trying to, if it's a nail of high value or an attractive nail, other magnetic fields are trying to pull him in too. Mm-hmm. And so for that particular woman, it's desirable that nail, feeling the separation and then the attraction again, the separation and attraction, the separation and attraction. Now it's like, well, where does the separation come from? Is he just like playing games? No, the man naturally had his own life that he was leading before the woman came in the picture.
Got stuff to do. He can't just be up under
her all the time. Yeah. Every waking thought is about, how can I get my woman not to leave me? Yeah. And so the relationship moves from, oh, I wanted her, she wanted me, brought her into my world, she has a great time. And that was the game, to how do I stop her from leaving me, because I don't know who I am outside of being inside her field anymore. Mm-hmm. So when that principle is violated and the woman can tell that fear is leading your relationship, typically this will be tested unconsciously. It could be in the form of subtle disrespectful things. It could be in the form of doing things that she knows bothers you. And again, this isn't conscious. I don't mean this in a malicious way. But she'll test the boundaries a bit of your sovereignty. Mm-hmm. And if a guy is operating in a place of, the highest priority to me is ensuring that I'm never removed from this magnetic field, or ensuring that she never leaves me, then he'll accept anything as long as she stays. So if you want to disrespect me, as long as you don't break up with me. And because of that pattern over time, there are little microaggressions that occur throughout the relationship, over a year and a half, to where the identity she has of him is one of, you're not the nail I thought you were, so to speak, right? you are, I've never really broken this down, but I'll try to right now. The problem is she sees that you have no respect for yourself because you allow me to do things to you, speak to you in ways that you know you don't speak to me, and how you wouldn't allow anybody else to speak to anybody you care about. So you allow me to treat you in a way that you wouldn't allow anybody else to treat anybody you care about. So the question is, why are you allowing yourself to be treated in a subhuman way? The only reason is if you have a self-perception of that you got lucky and she is so superior to you in every way that you just have to take what you can get. Right. Now, the thing about women is that they do not like taking on dependence, meaning somebody they have to drag around because they have low self-esteem. So their preference will be to be with a man that is more competent than them, or at least minimum equal competence, equal level of confidence, or higher, right? So that she doesn't have to constantly be vigilant in leading the dynamic because she has a adult male whose emotional stability she has to be responsible for, like that of a mother-son dynamic. So to close that question out, when the nail enters the magnet, the magnetic field, so to speak, the nail doesn't lose sight of who it was prior to entering the magnetic field. It doesn't become a nail magnet. And it doesn't go, okay, well, I'd love to, I'd love to go do the things I always was doing and leading my life in the way I was leading, but I'm afraid, right? Yeah. I'm afraid that she might not let me back into the field. I'm afraid that another nail might enter the field, all these things. All that. Yeah. And so it creates this fearful dynamic where he allows himself to gradually be treated in a way that is representative of a man who is a worse option for that woman than she could probably do. So she's actually getting the raw end of the deal because she's like, man, dang, like this is my forever guy. Yeah. And she's like, yeah.
That's like my son that I got.
Right.
Yeah. It's like,
So because of that, she's like, there's an instinctual repulsion. And now she tries to push you out of her field again. And then the guy feels himself being pushed out of his field and he tries to force, come on, wait, what? And he tries to, and the more he tries to force himself and the more she tries to push him out.
Yeah, that's where a lot of the feeling like toxicity comes from, right?
In what sense?
Like that forceful, that push, that, oh, I want this to work, and her like maybe unconsciously doing things that would make it not work, or like the being argumentative, or like all the things. Like, would you say that that's where toxicity lies, like in that forcefulness, that pushback?
Not necessarily. It depends on, toxicity is like a very generalized term, so it would depend on what you mean by that. If the woman is saying she doesn't want the guy anymore and the guy is trying to keep on the route, that's not toxic. It just means he doesn't want to let her go. Right. Now, if he's actually like stalking her and all that, then that's different. Right? If he's literally trying to use force and getting violent, then that's different. But if it's something where she's over it and,
and he just still trying to,
I mean, that's a very common thing in divorces. So, or just, marriages pre-divorce. So I wouldn't say that's necessarily toxic for a guy to want it to work. It just depends on what he does when she doesn't agree.
Right. So, with that, what would you say creates emotional safety for a woman without turning you into a nice guy?
Emotional safety without turning. Well, let's talk about what emotional safety means when women say it. Right? What do you think that means?
Emotional safety would mean like the ability for me to.
We could think of it in this way. What does emotional unsafety or danger mean? And then you can use that to flip it into what emotional safety would mean.
Like not being able. Emotional danger would be not being able to express myself without feeling judged or like. Or like. Just not being able to express myself.
What does that usually look like? What does not being able to express yourself look like?
That looks like if I bring something to like if I was to bring something to your attention and you was like, oh, like basically invalidating my feelings or like pushing it to the side or something, that would feel emotionally unsafe for me. I wouldn't feel comfortable with sharing anything again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So emotional safety is a space for a woman where her experience is validated.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. And could you reread the question?
What creates emotional safety for a woman without turning you into a nice guy?
If emotional safety represents a space where the feelings are validated, it would be being willing to hear what your woman's concerns or fears or whatever emotions are, because usually emotional safety comes from when she feels like she can express the negative ones, it's not usually the positive ones. Some rare cases can be like, oh, I don't want to seem too excited, but from the woman's experience, there's some perceived consequence that may come from her being vulnerable, right? Because when she's sharing something and gets told what you shared is irrelevant and doesn't matter, it creates a sense of rejection. And the rejection leads to pain, right? I don't think people think of it this way, but one of the most painful things for a human being is to feel like they don't exist. Right? Death. Right? Going out of existence. And that occurs on the communication level. So if you said something to me and I just completely pretended I didn't hear it and ignored you, it would bother you because it would be the equivalent of seeming like you don't exist or matter. So human beings don't like to feel like they don't matter or they don't exist. So invalidation is inherently painful, man or woman. But as we talked about, especially if it's a feminine woman, the depth of experience is going to be higher because the feminine is depth, emotional depth. We said the masculine is emotional detachment or distancing, right? So you're further away from the feeling and in observational consciousness, whereas the feminine represents depth into the feeling or experiential consciousness. So that being said, because the woman is a woman, the depth of experience from the rejection or the you don't matter, what you have to say doesn't matter is far more painful. And because it's far more painful, she's going to associate sharing or being vulnerable, right? Because what does vulnerability mean? It means you are revealing something that if somebody's malicious, would be able to easily harm you. Right? You could share something and not be vulnerable. By not being vulnerable, it means that you can't easily be pierced. If you're vulnerable, it means it's something that you're putting yourself in a state where if someone were to attack, the damage would be way higher.
Right.
So vulnerability is about the level of doubt. The more non-vulnerable something is, the harder the exterior, which is the masculine, the hardness, and the harder it is to damage it. The more vulnerable something is, the softer it becomes and the easier it is to damage. But the greater the vulnerability, the deeper the connection.
Yeah.
Greater vulnerability equals more connectivity. Because vulnerability means removing layers. And the more layers you remove, the more of the truth of that person you see. So if I keep it surface, that's what surface means. It means non-vulnerability. It means you kind of know me. The more layers I peel off, the more you know me. And the more layers that get peeled off without any damage, the greater the connection.
Right.
Right. And so as the women naturally seek spaces where they can take off their clothes, so to speak, in a non-sexual way, take off their masks, and still not be attacked for revealing their truest self.
Right.
In the positive and negative. Now, going back to what can allow a man to experience emotional safety, or what can, like how can a guy create a space for a woman to feel emotionally safe? It just comes from, honestly, fundamentally, the first step is to understand that his shit stinks. Meaning, whatever level of judgment on the thing that he may cast, he has to understand that he likely has his version of that. Right? And so, even if he doesn't have his version of that, it's understanding that there is, because I'm assuming this is his partner, he has to understand that the way a human being works is that oftentimes they don't know until they know. So rather than creating a space where the mistake or misperception or lack of knowledge or ignorant act that was done, because usually if it's something that somebody's being vulnerable, is something that could potentially have a lot of shame or pain around it, embarrassment, guilt. And so it's likely manifested from a mistake. And so it's understanding, the mistake you made doesn't define you in the same way the mistakes I made don't define me as a man. And if a guy isn't like that and he's super judgmental and super, you made a mistake, the moment he makes a mistake, he's lost that woman. Because he's leading whether he knows it or not. So he's setting the framework. And so if he's setting the framework of perfection, then he has to hold that, which you'll never be able to do.
Right.
And if he's never able to do that, then the lack of grace that that woman experiences from him will be the lack of grace he'll get from her. Right. And so a man being as non-judgmental as possible from a place of, doesn't mean anything goes. It just means that there's a level of understanding that there's a flawed human being in front of you. And if every mistake is met with judgment and venom, meaning if you kick a person while they're in that soft state, this will create pain, and pain will create avoidance. And as you said earlier, then she's not going to want to do it again, which will erode your connection and potentially create a rift. And then if there comes a situation where she finds a different space, and this is stuff I've experienced a variety of times, many times women will seek out that one guy who he's that space for her, where she comes for guidance, or she comes for, and I don't mean like a gay best friend kind of way, right? Yeah. I mean in a that's the rock, the masculine rock that I lean on in my weak moments. And sometimes that's not her boyfriend or her husband. If she doesn't feel like her boyfriend or husband has a level of understanding and awareness that can handle certain truths that she would share, she just won't tell them. And I've had this happen several times. Where women will come to me for guidance about their situation, and the guy has no idea that I exist. Right? Why would she do that? Right? It's not like I'm having sex with them. Well, not all the time. Not when they're with the boyfriend. But there have been times where these were women that I have had intimate relationships with. Not regularly, like to where it's like, but, you know, if they meet a guy or something, they'll come to me and like, okay, like, what do you think? Can you guide me? You want to meet him? Kind of thing.
Want to meet him?
Yeah. I've had quite a few situations where, but you have to understand that emotional vulnerable space is invaluable. So she knew that, or they knew that it wasn't a space of judgment.
Yeah.
So they showed me their true face. And that's partly why so many guys are very naive, right? Because the woman never shows them her true side, because she knows he can't take it. It's too judgmental. It's too sensitive. He'll fall apart, and this image of what he thinks women are like will crumble, right? And then we'll go into slut shaming, hoe shaming, blah, blah, blah. And I didn't plan to go here, but I'll just leave it here before the next question. You never want to be that, because the reality is that you'll never know, unless she really trusts you and fucks with you, you'll never know what a woman's done. And so I've been in a variety of situations, and I've been in situations where I remember if you can call it the me and someone else was out, and I'd assume at the time, well, at least to one memory that's coming to mind, the girl in her situation was either on break or over with. And we had a brief moment, and maybe a month or so later, 2 months or maybe later that year, it was something like that. I think it might have been like in October or so. And we may have had an encounter like in February. The guy she was with, I saw, and I'm going, oh, they're back together, and walk right past each other, right? Obviously, we made eye contact, kind of like there's an understanding of like, oh, okay, so this is who it was, kind of thing. And she knew I wouldn't say anything or do anything, or, you know. So I say that to say, and I'll make a video on the shadow world. Yeah, because that's its own video. But I say that to say, if you are super judgmental, and women are very good at sensing this, very sensitive, one, it's a badge of your inexperience. I can always tell how little experience a guy has by his level of judgmentalness. I'm like, I can tell a woman, you've seen very few women's true face. And I say that because once you've seen that enough times, you stop having this naive point of view of the Virgin Mary. And sometimes I'll hear the case for, well, it's the modern times. The difference now is that social media exists, so you're exposed to things more. It doesn't mean that if you think paternity fraud is some new phenomenon, that the milkman wasn't clapping cheeks back in the 50s and 40s. Well, like, this is not a new phenomenon. Women have always slept with men that they truly desired. Now, the level of access might be lower back then than it was now, but it was also way harder to track. Right? There were no phones. There were like, whatever went down, and nobody knew.
A lot of data that ain't been.
It's impossible to quantify.
Right.
So it's understanding that, particularly in the sexual domain, it's a space that cannot be quantified and cannot be studied because it always happens. It's happening right now as you're watching this video. And it's the one thing that nobody knows is happening other than the people that are doing it most of the time. So it's happening always out of the awareness of humans. Like, it's always happening, but no one ever sees it. So it can't be studied fully. And when you understand that, you realize, oh, shoot, I don't know what Mary's doing. Right? And so a guy may go, oh, I need a woman that has low body count, but he also wants a situation where he has a lot of sexual experience. So I'm like, if every man chooses to have a lot of sexual experience, then who's going to have the low body count? Right? But it's like, that's almost besides the point. I'm not advocating for any particular guy running through a bunch of women or women going through a lot of guys. The point is that you just never know. And if your barometer is, I need this, this, and that, all she'll do is just not tell you the truth. Because the reality of it is that I know if not every single girl, most of them, if not every single one of them, whoever they're with right now will never know I existed. Not even because it was on some hidden stuff. I just prefer to operate in the shadows. And most people, women I met, they don't know I exist, except for some rare cases. But so many situations were winks and in a new city for 2 days, several engagements, and nobody knew but me and that woman. Okay. So once you understand that exists, you have a more grounded and realistic expectation, and so you're not as naive. And understand that there's far more to a dynamic than if a woman has had 3 guys before you. A woman could have been with 1 guy before you, and depending on who that guy is, you're cooked. Right? So it's not a matter of, oh, well, you know, she only has 1 body. If it's me, you're done for now. It's fine. Okay. Oh, but we can go to the next question.
Yeah, on that, speaking of bodies, how do you keep polarity and sexual tension alive after the honeymoon phase? You know, people say honeymoon phase.
That's a hard one to say because that's honeymoon phases, or there's no set time.
Yeah.
And I also think because of the thing we explained earlier, a lot of times the honeymoon phase fades off. It could be because both people started pulling their masks off. Because, you know, in the beginning,
it's a lot of
masking. I'm going to show up in a way that I don't usually show up.
And that like the honeymoon phase does not exist for those who are showing up as they self. Like, like if you're you, like I feel like the like you were saying, the honeymoon phase is rooted in taking off the mask. Like, oh, I've been around this person for a certain amount of time, and I'm starting to see these true colors or X, Y, Z. But it's all based off of like what was hidden in the beginning, and now you see all these things, and it's like, oh, the honeymoon phase. We were in the honeymoon phase. Now I don't even know who I'm with right now. Yeah.
So when the truth of that person gets revealed, the quote unquote honeymoon phase is merely the again, they're also different variables.
Yeah.
But the cons of this person are now being revealed to me. And usually because people want to be liked, they'll hide the cons early. And whereas if it's a thing where, oh, I have these cons and I have these pros very early in the dynamic, it's very improbable that that phase will die down because they know the product they're getting up front.
Right.
And again, that's a really tricky one because it's based on chemistry. It's based upon what the motivation of the union is, right? Did they just both come out of relationships? Were they cheating when they got together? Like, there's a lot of, were they both coming out of celibacy? Did they just both get divorced and they just want some,
It's a lot of different variables.
Right. So usually the quote-unquote honeymoon phase is based on the foundation of the relationship. Why did you guys enjoy each other so much? If it was to get over your exes, then after a while, that's okay. Now we're over them. Now we got to actually be around each other. And secondly, how often were you guys around each other? You saw each other once a week for 6 months. You don't have enough time around the person to right. Then the honeymoon phase could go away because you're just around them for a week. And you're like, oh, dang, I don't like this person that much. So complicated a question. But that's not even a relevant thing for a guy if he's listening, trying to maintain the honeymoon phase. If there's alignment and you're not doing repulsive activity, repulsive behavior, and if you're listening to this and you're like, dang, am I doing repulsive behavior? If you have to ask that question, then it's probably yes. The list is I'd have to know your actual situation to get into the specifics of that. So if that's something you're concerned about, click the link down below in the description, book a call, and we'll see what the situation is. If you feel like you're a man that's like, oh man, I'm my situation is all over the place. She's growing cold. The sex is almost. If you want to reignite that to a place where she's damn near obsessed with you again, this has happened so many times. Book the call down below, and then we can do that. What was the next question?
So, what is the role of leadership and correction in building trust over time?
Role of leadership and correction. So leadership, we talked about in the last video. Leadership is a particular person choosing a direction and then somebody willingly following. So leadership in this case is a really big deal because most relationships get destroyed within the first 3 interactions. Why? Because they set the foundation of who they're telling the person they are. That's kind of tying back to the honeymoon phase thing, right? Within the first 3 interactions, particularly as the man, you're giving the woman the frame or the identity of who you are, who she can expect you to be.
Right.
So if you show up as I'm a man of such and whatever, right? I'd like to wait 44 days before I engage in sexual pleasure, and and that's who you present yourself as within the first 3. And then within 20 days, you're on some demon time. Like, what am I going to... Right. You're going to, whoa.
Right. Who is this man?
Or after the fact, like maybe a couple months into the relationship, all that, oh, I'm Sir Charles Shakespeare. And all that goes out the window now. And it's like, who's this? Right. That woman is going to... Remember, the feminine is the adaptive principle. She's going to adapt to the falsitude that you are. And so that can kill the dynamic. But in doing so, you actually led her So your falseness in the beginning and then your realness in the back end, you led that relationship in that direction because you set the framework of who she could expect.
Right.
And so leadership is simply the example you give, right? Mm-hmm. So the example you give early, okay, so you meet her, the first date, you spend $7,000 on the first date. Mm-hmm. You just laid the first brick of the foundation of what she should expect from you in that relationship.
Right.
Second date, such and such. Third date, such and such. You're setting the framework of the man you are. Nervous laughs, pretending that you're into stuff you're not really into, trying to you're setting the framework of what that woman can expect through your example, right? And so then she goes, oh, okay, I see who I'm dealing with here. And she's going to, if there are a lot of benefits to you, even if she doesn't like you, she'll potentially move forward, right? And in exchange for the lifestyle benefits that you provide. And oftentimes a guy in this position will go, yeah, okay, great, I got the girl, because they've equated having physical sexual access to her as the highest level, not understanding that a woman can give you access to her body, but you don't have access to her mind or her heart. Somebody else has that. Mm-hmm. And if he has access to her mind and her heart, he almost can always get her body. Yeah. Sure. So if you think a woman just giving you her body is some big stuff, be wary of the man who has her mind and worse, her heart. Yeah. So just to put that in perspective for the guys who think getting laid is the highest, is the biggest thing in the world. Yeah. So if you pay for 100 dinners and you got laid and you're like, okay, I got her now, like we had sex. That doesn't necessarily mean she's yours or she's with you. Mm-hmm. And so if that's the case, then you actually, through your leadership, got her to a place where you're nothing more than a lifestyle rather than an actual person she wants to be with. Right. Now, as far as correction, let's assume that she does want to be with you. The correction piece is more about the thing we talked about earlier, which is ensuring that you're not allowing yourself to show up as a man you wouldn't hang around. Mm. You wouldn't want around you. So it's important to make sure you're being treated as a man, or treated in a way that, one, you'd prefer for her to be treated, or prefer for someone that you care about to be treated. Right. So if you're allowing yourself to be disrespected, she's cutting you off when you speak, the sex is almost non-existent. All these things are ways of communication that are ways, if someone else came to you and said this was their experience, you'd be like, yo, something needs to shift. Right. Or you're going to, recommend them leaving. Right. So, yet you're having a similar experience and stay. And not only stay, but you're just like, as long as she doesn't leave me. Right. And so you don't correct the problems you see. That's what correction means, to put on a proper path, to redirect back on a proper path. Right. It's not a negative thing. And so if you notice she's been disrespectful to you, when you guys ever get into a situation, voices being raised, you're being cut off, and you're not showing up in that way, that's where the leadership piece comes in. You have to make sure you set the proper example first. You need in that moment to make sure you correct that, right? To set on a proper path. Hey, listen, when we're having a conversation, I don't tolerate voices being raised at me. Yeah. I'm not a child. Right. I'm not raising my voice at you. You're not going to raise your voice at me. Mm-hmm. If you feel like you need a moment to cool off, emotions are high, then you can do so, and we will reconvene. But the raising voice, the cutoff, the yelling over each other, we're not doing that. Yeah. Right. So I'm open to the conversation again whenever you're ready. Let's reconvene then. But we're not doing the yelling back and forth. Right. Okay? Right. And so that would be a corrective moment where you reset through example and through verbal communication the expectations of how you will be treated. Right. So that would be the correction piece.
Okay. So What's one way a man can lead a relationship today that will build deeper connection tomorrow?
Mm, build a relationship today that will build a deeper connection tomorrow.
A way he can lead.
Lead.
Yeah. What's one way a man can lead a relationship today that will build a deeper connection tomorrow?
It will depend on what area of, because you can't force connection. But if I had to say one thing, I'd say if you want to build a deep connection, admit a recent mistake that you made. It could be unprompted, right? Typically guys are taught that they need to seem impenetrable, and that's the greatest position of strength. But it's more accurate to say they just need to seem unconquerable. And unconquerable does not mean that something can't be harmed. It just means that in being harmed, it always bounces back.
Right.
And so oftentimes, because the perception is that if any flaws or weaknesses or mistakes or moments of vulnerability are revealed, then the woman will attack me and I'll beat it. But, and this is a quick thing about vulnerability, I may have said this in a video before, but vulnerability is actually a position of strength. The reason is because those who fear vulnerability are those who are fearful of the judgment of the person they reveal the truth to. Right. And so that's one level. But then there's a level beyond that in vulnerability where regardless of the judgment, you don't care. And so it's a level of vulnerability gets transmuted to transparency. Right. And so you're transparent, which could be perceived as vulnerable. It's called vulnerability when there's like a fear of judgment. And so you're hoping the person doesn't do something. Whereas transparency is a similar thing, but regardless of your judgment, I'm going to tell the truth. I'm going to continue to be who I am. Right. So if you want to deepen connection, trust is one of those ways you can do so. And one of the, if not the greatest way to build trust is to build truth. Yeah. And the best way to build truth is usually to reveal things that you think would make you look bad, but say it anyway because it's the truth. And then fearlessly go, okay, right, yeah, that makes me look bad, but it's all good. I'll bounce back and improve. And that will create a level of respect and ignite something within the woman that she almost rarely ever experiences, because usually guys are overly tough and try to portray invulnerability, or they're overly soft and expect her to be responsible for his emotional safety. Right. Right. Not to say a woman should just lash out at a man. In that case, then she either needs to work on herself, or that relationship needs to wrap up. Right. But it's understanding that the mistakes I make don't define me, even if they don't make me look the best. Yeah. And so a guy can go, okay, and watch how the connection deepens, because he's going to trust that, wow, most guys or most people would never admit that. That's very courageous. And it also inspire her to do the same. So it actually creates emotional safety for her because of the emotional safety you have within yourself. Right.